about wrestling. Let's watch Jim talk about wrestling. Oh, Jim reviews AEW Dynamite. Here we go.
Well, we will
Let's
keep
get
on
into
top
the
of the
good Jim
stupid news
Cornette.
with Miro, but
Let's
Jim,
get in the
we're talking
juice,
about AEW
Jim.
Dynamite, which took place a few days ago. What was it? September
18th.
September 18th, the day
You know
after
what?
your birthday.
You know what?
What?
I'm just
September
thinking.
18th.
I watched this show at the same time I was eating the garlic and chicken calzone that poisoned me.
Calzone?
And maybe it was
Okay.
this show rather than the calzone. I hadn't even thought about that. It was the exact same time, and I haven't been the same.
Look, Jim, you're a wrestling fan just like myself here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you don't eat very well. As one of your catchphrases, as everyone has noted, is your cheeseburger order. If your cheeseburger order is that famous, you're probably not eating quality food. I agree. I'm in the same boat. I'm with you, Jim. I had Panda Express for dinner last night. That's barely Chinese food. And it's barely food in general. They don't use real pandas anymore. I'm really upset by that. Anyways, I think it was the calzone. If your tummy's getting hurt from wrestling, I don't know, buddy. I know you're being funny. I know.
Wow.
They should have subtitled this program, "Is This a Rib?"
Well, the answer is no. They're
What's the September 18th show?
The opening match on this program from Wednesday night, September 18th, and I forgot to even write down where they were. And I don't know if anybody knew where they were because nobody showed up, but
pockets. We got pockets. We got attendance. Oh, we are so back, baby. We're talking attendance. We're talking pockets. Oh man, we're in the gym. Jim Cornette's got his juice back. Let's go. All right, here's the matches. Human suplex machine test, learning tree segment. All right, let's get into it. I remember this episode. Let's talk about it.
With poor Kyle O'Reilly and Mark Briscoe providing the Larry and Curly parts to this Mo against Chris Jericho with his two stooges in the corner. And this thing took up pretty much the first 25 minutes of the television program.
Yep.
And yes, I know Jericho is a shell of himself and he's in his mid-50s and the gimmick is rotten. But he's still a name. He's still a recognized.
Right. And this is where I put out a video of me disagreeing with Jim Cornette's takes on the PWI 500, and I got a lot of hate comments for it. I do agree with Jim in this sense. This match that went with Jericho and Orange Cassidy went way too long. Way too long. I'm sorry, Chris. We don't need 20-minute bangers from you anymore. We saw those when like 30 years ago. And no shade, dude, you were great. You were tremendous. We loved you back then. I don't disagree. I do disagree with like the character being rotten. I'm not a fan. I like the character of Chris Jericho, the Learning Tree. I like the character of a disingenuous leader, like a locker room leader. And once again, this is my conspiracy that this is all a rib on CM Punk. Jericho has not messaged me back about it. But I think this is all a rib on CM Punk because Jericho is being the learning tree. He wants people to learn from him. He's being very adamant about that kind of stuff. And I think that is why this is kind of the rib. And it is. And it may or may not be. In my head, that's what it is. But I like the learning tree gimmick. I also like the little character work that Big Bill's been able to show and Brian Keith. These are two guys who wouldn't typically be on television. That's why I like the learning tree gimmick. I know people could say, oh, they get stuck in the Jericho vortex, but I'll be honest, if you're anywhere near the sphere of Chris Jericho, you're going to be on television. Hell, Luther, Chris Jericho's, I don't want to. I mean, this isn't just right. I mean, this is a joke. He's Chris Jericho's Brutus the Barber Beefcake. They're boys, and he has a job, and he's on television. And just be around Chris Jericho, man. It's good for your career.
Star.
He's been on television.
Of some benefit to them in some way, and he went 25 minutes with the comedy mascot and lost.
All right, comedy mascot. We're always talking about Orange Cassidy. I get it. He doesn't like Orange Cassidy. All right. We get it. You don't like it. But I know you get the pops when you say the gimmick and when you say the catchphrase. So I get it. Say the catchphrase. I wanted to stop this real quick and point out this cover art or this art for it is insane. Jim Cornette is Captain Hook. Captain Hook is the bad guy. And I guess that's Brian Last. I don't actually know what Brian Last looks like. He also looks like Tony Schiavone a little bit. And he's the Schmidt. Smidley? I don't know. Whatever the second mate is. Those are the bad guys. And Tony Khan is dressed as Chef Boyardee with a bottle of poison. This isn't like Chat GPT drawing this. This is like somebody actually drawing this. And like, I love the fact that a part of somebody's week is drawing these ridiculous pictures for Jim Cornette. What looks to be in Microsoft Paint. Like, it's very cute. It is very, very cute. James is saying in the chat, Brian Last has never shown his face. Nah, bro, we're finding this. No way. Brian Last. Nah, we got to have a picture of this guy. Facts Buddy. It's an American podcaster. Is that him? There you go. Oh, yeah, he's a handsome boy. Go. We found him. I think, allegedly. I'm not sure. He has a high school education, and he was enrolled in Nassau Community College. There you go. No, that's his Twitter icon. Oh, that might not actually be him. That's his Twitter picture. Oh, dude, what? Okay. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. All right, so here's him wearing something from American Vanguard. Looks like the same guy previously. Looks like the same guy. Got the kind of swoopy hair. Yeah, man, and also, like, he's got a nerd amount of books behind him, so I'm going to go with that's probably him. Oh, or is that him? I don't know. So many selections. Who the heck is Brian Last? All right, here we go. Reddit's been asking this 4 years ago. Let's see. Say what you will about Last and Cornette, but I don't think Cornette could ask for a better podcast partner. Brian generally seems to know and have an opinion to let Corny know. Okay. Yeah. I think he does a great job. He definitely gets Corny riled up. He sits there and feeds the man, which is exactly what you need to do, right? As a co-host. We found a picture. Don't tell me I can't find a man. Man, if that was Brian Last in this picture here, and that's how you drew him, that's mean. I don't like that. Man's more handsome than that. Where's my sound?
Wilkes-Barre. Boy, howdy.
Estimated attendance 2,896 tickets distributed.
Well, that's tickets given out. Not everybody, but they didn't have 65 guns in town to force people to come at gunpoint.
Here's my thing. I don't know if you know this. Some things in the world are kind of expensive right now, Jimothy. Jimothy. Things are expensive. Sometimes it's hard to afford things. Sometimes people have stuff going on Wednesdays. Sometimes people just don't want to go to a show. It could be a myriad of things. But I'm sorry. If I was to give out free tickets to any show, any professional wrestling show, I don't think could get 2,000 people to go, even if it was free, if it had the space in the building. Still getting 2,000 tickets sold in a building on a Wednesday night weekly is still good enough to be the second biggest wrestling promotion in the country. Now, having said that, I think that AEW should sell some more tickets. They should make them cheaper. Be the alternative. That's what you said you are, AEW. Have cheaper tickets. I don't know why they were so much. Now, I will say the floor seats that I did get in Lexington were $100. That seems really decent for floor seats. But some of these other seats that were facing the hard cam were like $50, $60. You were kind of up towards the top. And I was like, that should be cheaper. And I think this goes to show that AEW's main focus, because they know that, right? If I'm sitting here as somebody who has no access to any of their books or financial records and can say, maybe if you just sold tickets a little cheaper, maybe that would be better. They know that because there's real accountants, people who know numbers. I don't know numbers, but it's easy to see that they are not really concerned with it. Their main concern is probably the television rights deals. Now, why would that be? People are going to complain about live attendance, and I get that. But the optics on television, you would never know. You would absolutely never know that this was going on. Because the only reason we know it is because people take pictures of the hard cam side and say, look how empty it is. Yes, and then we have annoying dissertations about this kind of stuff. AEW's bread and butter, like most pro wrestling, like all pro wrestling at that level, WWE included, their money is, the live gate is good. Don't get me wrong. That helps. That definitely helps with the offset of the production cost. But when you're making AEW's television rights deal was allegedly going to be like $100 million, was it like $120 million a year for television? When you're making $120 million a year on television, Why do you care about maybe $100,000 gate? I'm going to put my effort where most of my money comes from. And as long as it looks full on television, it fundamentally doesn't matter to me if one side is not full. When I worked at OVW, we had sides that weren't full. We moved people around, and guess what? We just didn't shoot that side. You would have never known there was 100 to 75 people seeing some of those shows. So it is insane to me that we're still having this discourse about it. And it really is by bad faith internet dweebs who are saying, like, who post pictures of empty crowds on Twitter, which, okay, if that's what you want to do for interaction, that's what you want to do for fun, you think that's fun stuff, God bless you, man. James in the chat is saying they used to be cheaper. Remember? I don't remember them being cheaper. Last time I've gone to Lexington, Louisville, and another Lexington show. You know what? I do want to say my floor seats might have been, they're maybe like $20, $30 more expensive than the seats that I bought that were in the stands last time when I went in Louisville. The Lexington, we just found some really good seats. I was really happy about that. Chat, what's up, Wild Card? What's up, Wild Card? Doing good, man. Hope you're doing well. I was enjoying the stream last night. Always enjoy. If you're not following Wild Card Petty Chris, please do that on the TikTok. James is saying that Full Gear floor seats are sold at $160 right now, and that's from AEW. So if you can get those seats and you want to go to Full Gear, snap them up.
Anyway, any thoughts on that thing before we move along?
You know, it's been a few weeks now where, for no good reason, they returned to this Pockets Chris Jericho feud. They had the really embarrassing angle with Jericho's car. That'll probably be on the Worst of AEW Volume 3 on the bus.
Oh, I like that spot, dude. What do you want them to do? Destroy a Bentley? They poured change all over the Bentley. It was an $8,000 feud, not a $1,000 feud. Come on, man. I think that's nitpicking. I think it was funny.
Now that we think about it.
Yeah, this was a big grudge match from them totally scuffing the upholstery on that fancy sports car of Jericho's with a handful of quarters last week.
This match is a great example of the problems with AEW.
I'm sorry. It's a little disingenuous, Jim. You saw it hit the paint. You know what it's supposed to be. They're not trying to destroy a car. Like, I'm sorry. There's a slight difference between Stone Cold Steve Austin filling a Corvette up with cement versus them pouring a bunch of loose change on a bent. Slight difference, you know?
Orange Cassidy.
That wasn't a working Bentley,
it's
boys.
Been 5 years. I don't think anyone gives a shit anymore. And it's something that hurts AEW more than they're willing to recognize. Again, the diminishing crowds that go to the live shows, he still gets a pop from a smaller and smaller audience because he'll never be part of a winning team that bring people back in. And Jericho's the opposite. Orange Cassidy's been doing the same thing for 5 years. Jericho, in the midst of the endless midlife crisis that is Chris Jericho, has an awful gimmick that AEW fans don't like. It's not heat when people leave to go to the bathroom in the concession stands when you're on. That's not heat. That's the opposite of heat.
That's true.
We don't give a and
no, he's right about that. Yeah, but I have to say though, I think that Jericho's gimmick works. I think it works well for what he's doing. Some people don't. That's fine. It's not going to hit for everybody, and that's okay. And there has been ups and downs in it for sure, just with anything. But look, those people who are going to leave and go to the bathroom during specific portions are always going to do that to the stuff they don't like. You know, we have this issue with, like, a lot of people use the women's matches for restroom breaks. You might just not like women's wrestling. Okay, fine, whatever. But don't sit here and say, like, it shouldn't be on the show just because you don't like it. I mean, wrestling, especially AEW, is a variety show. There is a ton of different styles, a ton of different matches, a bunch of different people. You know, not everybody is the same size, big guy, small guy, whatever. And that's what I like about it. And just because you don't like a specific segment, I don't think you should just, I mean, of course, you're welcome to your own opinions, right? But to say it doesn't belong on the show, I don't know, man. You guys go over the ratings all the time. Seems like Jericho is still doing numbers, especially at the beginning when Jim says, well, Jericho is a name. Yeah, man, I agree. So put him on the show. We can't have Schrodinger's Jericho simultaneously on the show and off the show. And I understand the gimmick's not for you. That's fine. It's the worst drawn calzones I've ever seen.
And both these guys, the best thing for AEW with them both being far away from this TV and far away from Tony Khan for a while. Because some of the people Tony leans on are just the wrong people.
Jericho's not even halfway through that 10-year contract we heard he signed till he's 62. So
Cool.
he's got to come up with some ideas.
Is Jericho that old? How old is Jericho? I guess I can play this in the background.
On how to put the guy over that Tony dressed as for Halloween to make the guy happy, they'll keep paying him.
What? What did you say about Tony Khan dressing up?
For a while, because some of the people
think about that,
Tony leans on are just the wrong people.
Jericho's not even halfway through that 10-year contract we heard he signed till he's 62. So he's got to come up with some idea.
Jericho is 53 right now. If his 10-year contract started at the beginning of AEW, then he'll be in his late 50s by the time it's done with.
For Halloween to make the guy happy, they'll keep paying him.
I don't get it. Yeah, he dressed as one of the wrestlers. I don't. Okay.
There's a lot of the Plumber and Claudio and Pac and their thing. They did a promo in the back with the.
They keep calling John Moxley a plumber. Look, I don't know if you've seen John Moxley late. He looks pretty good, especially since he stopped drinking. But like, I don't know, man. He looks pretty cool. That looks all right. He doesn't look too much like a plumber to me, but you know, what do I know? I've only had to change all the pipes in our house this year. I've seen too many plumbers for my liking. But that's the thing, man. I think Jim gets a pop for some of the things he says, and then he continues to say them because he's got wrestler brain. And that's fine. Like, I get it. That's what you did for your entire life. But like, you're just saying the same cheap heat stuff over and over again, despite him not looking like a plumber. Dusty Rhodes, son of a plumber, big guy. So are we saying that, like, I mean, plumbers come in with all shapes and sizes, I guess, but I don't. If my plumber showed up looking like John Moxley, I was like, can you send a less threatening plumber to my house? That would be tremendous. Thank you.
Ominous music where they talked in circles and they're trying to get Wheeler Useless to defend the.
There it is, another one.
Six-man tag team belts next week, even though he didn't agree with them for beating up Bryan Danielson for whatever reason.
It is just kind of tired. Like, I get it. You got all the stuff, like, get your pops in, get your cheap heat, get your stuff that you want to do. But like, everything is a name joke. And look, I like stand-up comedy. I like when people are funny. I think Jim is funny sometimes. But like, people saying like, this is entertainment. This is like, I'm sorry. This is like dumb baseline stuff. Like, it's ridiculous that he has I understand, like, Jim has the platform that he has because of the stuff that he did. He definitely resonates and speaks to a certain part of the wrestling population, we'll say. But good God, man, is this just tired material? Yeah, James in the chat saying he misses more than he hits. He does, man. He does. And when he gets a hit, I'm like, hell yeah, that's funny, dude. I will say anytime that Jim Cornette is funny, that I think he's funny, I will give him his props. That's funny. Sometimes unfunny people make funny things. They do funny things. But like, good God, every single joke is just like, this guy has a weird name. It's just, like, when we went through the let me move this back over. Sorry, guys. There we go. When we went through this whole issue with the PWI 500, anybody with a non-anglicized name got made fun of. And like, okay, Jim, I understand you don't know wrestling outside of, you know, the United States between 1985 and like 2002. I get that. Alexandra, thank you so much for the gift. I appreciate that. And I get it. I get that, Jim. But wrestling has happened throughout the world in different places with different styles. Surprise, surprise, some of those people from other countries do not have anglicized names. And you making fun of them for their name is low effort comedy. It is whack. I'm sorry. It is. It's lame stuff. But then to say, like, just because I don't know who he is, you would make fun of them. Jim, there's going to be a lot of things in the world that you don't know, especially in the world of pro wrestling, especially when you don't watch other pro wrestling from around the world. Okay, cool. It's not cool to not, like, to just be like, I don't know, and not knowing is cool. Like, that is some middle school, like, mindset that's like the cool kid in the back of the class, and he's like, I don't know, teacher. I'm not a book nerd. It's like, Jim, you're very much a book nerd, my friend. Like, you know so much about wrestling. If you cared to learn about other wrestling, you definitely could. You could even learn, and this might be a shocker, to pronounce people's name correct. Surprise. But in this day and age with everything, I'm like, Jim, you're on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. You could type in whoever you wanted right in this little box right here, and it'll pull up clips, and you can learn about those people. That way you can have informed opinions on things. Or, and hear me out, maybe you just don't talk about stuff you don't know about. Yeah? Cool.
And
what's the chat said? I'm sorry, I went on a tirade. Let's see. Cornette would be happy if wrestling stayed in the 1980s mindset. Yeah, man, he would. And that's what happened when I worked with him. He wanted to do all the greatest hits, and I get that. There's something about that. There's nostalgia to that. I like nostalgia too. But it gets to the point where if you're not pushing pro wrestling in different directions, the art form is going to stagnate. It's going to become like glue and not do anything. And unfortunately, that is not what I want for pro wrestling. I don't think anybody wants that from pro wrestling. Chris, I'll get to your question in just a minute, man. So what I'm saying is, think of pro wrestling how it first started with George Hackenschmidt and those cats. Like catch can wrestling, something like we saw from Dynamite last night. Not necessarily that, but like old, just think of like old wrestling, right? Old when it went from a shoot to being a work. Like a hammerlock was like a finishing move. Like a vertical suplex to those guys would have been like, oh, this is fake baloney. What are you doing? Like, this is dumb. And we've had this history. We've had this beautiful shining pedestal throughout history of people who never want to move things forward. And that's in everything. That's in life, that's in art, that's in politics. Jim Cornette is that guy now. He's the old guy who time has passed him by and he wants things to be like they were 40 years ago. I do not want that. I want to be the old guy who continues to move on with the trends, because if we don't continue to move forward in the world of professional wrestling, it's going to stagnate. And I'm sorry, but attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, Jim, and you throwing on like these matches that you want to see isn't what the kids want anymore. And that's okay. That's fine. But also realize that like the art form has changed. The art form's changed since you were a kid. When you were a kid in the 80s, when you were working in the 80s, Jim, I'm sure people thought the Rock and Roll Express were whack. Like the old timers, right? They probably thought they're doing too much. There's always been people to push the envelope, and you were part of one of them. You were literally their manager, but you can't seem to understand it when it's not involving you. That's the part that I have trouble with. Is I know that Jim is a smart wrestling mind. He is good at what he does. He's a historian like no other. But just because you're a historian doesn't mean you have to only focus on the past. Part of learning history is to know where things are going in the future. And if you're not doing that, then you're not really helping the art form any. All right, Chris, yeah, I am available for Sunday. Why don't you DM me and we'll talk about it. We'll get something available. I am free the whole weekend. Oh, wait, Sunday. Never mind. Sunday, dude, what day were we doing that? Message me. I got my dad's birthday sometime this weekend. I think it is Sunday, but I'll double check. All right. What else we got going in the chat? Alexandria is saying wrestler quality of life is so much better now than it was 40 years ago. Exactly. I like that. And what's funny to me is there's this old idea of like, these wrestlers are doing too much now. And Jim likes to make fun of Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy literally wrestles with his hands in his pockets sometimes because the idea is he's too cool to care. He doesn't do too much, which I like. I think that that's really fun. Now, having said that, Jim absolutely hates this man because for whatever reason, he just hates him. That's okay. It's not all going to be for you.
That was an ongoing thing that we'll come back to. Did you enjoy the match between Hook and Tits McGee?
No, not really.
He came out, he suplexed the guy twice or three times and choked him out.
I'm kind of bored. Yeah, bored may not be the right word.
Who's he talking about?
Until they do something good with him.
Well, it's disappointing now because it.
Oh, JD, got it.
And he's been made look stupid, and his weaknesses have been exploited rather than his strengths being exploited. And
imagine if he had Paul Heyman like Taz did.
Oh boy,
you know what I mean? Like he would have.
Imagine if he had Paul Heyman like Taz did. I think that Taz and Hook are drastically different characters. Drastically different. Like look at them with your eyeballs. Use your eyeballs and look at them with your face. They're different guys. No doubt that Paul Heyman could have helped for sure, but I don't think Hook has been bad. I mean, I don't get it, right? Hook's been wrestling for 4 years. Most of that has been on television. I think all of it's been on television, actually, which is impressive. Good for him. Great. Good job. But my issue, though, that I take is this is a man we're watching learn on television. They're saying AEW doesn't develop stars. People say that stuff all the time. I think Hook is a star, so much so that people are talking about him. They want him in WWE. And that, well, the fans, I don't know if WWE wants him or not, but I think that's great. I think Hook has been doing good. I think they do accentuate the positives of Hook, one of those being his suplexes. I haven't seen anything from Hook that looks terribly sloppy, but they have put him in the ring with some people I think it's very good. Chris Jericho, for instance. I think Chris Jericho could get a decent match out of me, let alone somebody who is athletic and 25. James is saying he's got no new ideas. And smart Mark Syke, your mind says, feel like this is a disingenuous answer because he has clearly said why now, whether he disagrees. I'm not sure what you're saying there. Let's see. Let's get back into it.
Found a way to not. We've seen it, like you said, we've seen every weakness on the mic, in the ring, and of course with the overall book. The whole point of someone like that is to hide all that forever.
Do y'all think Hook's bad on the mic? I thought Hook's okay on the mic. I thought his promo that he did was fine. I don't know. I think Hook's fine. Maybe that's just me.
Well, maybe when he becomes a captain. See, now, if Jim Herd was around, he'd put a pirate hat on that or have him chop.
Oh, my God. That's how we got the Captain Hook thing. So stupid.
Up his left arm off and put a fucking hook on it. You'd have a goddamn movie tie-in.
He can make Tony Schiavone smee.
There you go. That is Tony Schiavone. I was right. There it is.
Did you smee the interview with Private Party?
I don't know. Okay, so this whole drawing is because they did a Captain Hook joke because of Hook, and such a weird drawing. Such a weird drawing.
This was the best interview I've ever seen them do ever. And for
Alexandria in the chat saying Cornette is embarrassing.
If they're going to use this Moxley thing,
I'll drink to that,
to give Private Party a harder edge and make them more serious and believable, I couldn't believe how much I liked Isaiah Cassidy on the mic here. I thought this was great.
Yeah, that was one thing I really liked about that. I agree with Brian Lass on this. So one thing that I've always had an issue with in pro wrestling is tone, right? So you have backstage segments where the guys are like, we're going to get out there and give it our all. They give like the standard wrestling babyface promo. And other times you get guys who are in there who talk like real people that like, you know, like real people challenging you to a fight. That's what I liked about this Isaiah Cassidy promo. It didn't feel wrestling. It felt like, you know what, we're going to show you, like, sound like real people communicating. And that's the thing. I think that a lot of us have, and it happens to wrestlers as well, they have this preconceived notion of what professional wrestling should be. Okay, I get that. Not going to fight with you about your feelings on pro wrestling, but I think that we need to continue to evolve the art form. We don't necessarily have to cut the same promos, same style every single time. We could just add realism to that. I know we all know that this is a predetermined art form, but it doesn't mean the dialogue can't be real. Take movies, for instance. I don't know if you know this, but The Avengers is worked. I'm sorry to break that news to you. The Avengers is worked. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmicked fight. Okay, it's not real. It's They still have dialogue that makes sense for these characters. Not everyone is giving the Captain America rah-rah speech all the time, nor should they. I think that you just need to dial up the realism. And that's what I would do. That's what I would do if I was backstage with these guys doing producing. I would say, okay, what are we talking about in this promo? You're talking about how you're coming after Moxley, whatever. That's fine. Cool. Got it. How would you say that if I was a dude on the street challenging you to a fight? You wouldn't say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to hit you with my finisher. No, you'd be like, dude, I'm going to whoop your ass. Plain and simple. I'm going to beat you into the dirt. That's the stuff you would say. You would be real about it. I want people to be real. And I know it's not going to work for everybody. Some people don't actually have that bone in their body, that mean bone. But that's how I would tell people to respond. You have to bring that sense of realism into this world that is super fictitious. Everything that we're seeing, from the worked punches to a vertical suplex, try to pick another person up over your head and hold them up for a brain buster, especially someone you're wrestling. Like, they don't want that to happen to them. We suspend our disbelief in so many places. I would like to see wrestling return some of that suspension of disbelief in kind and say, look, we can make this feel more real. Just my 2 cents on it.
Now,
I want to congratulate the meth growers of America for, God damn, it was like a Federal Express commercial. All of a sudden, they're blah, 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 blah. Like, what the fuck happened here? Apparently, they knew they had to get it in before they got the shit kicked out of them later on.
well, that's the problem with it. It was a good promo if you were going to set them up to be a little different instead. I mean, we'll talk about when we talk about it, but when you punch Jon Moxley and he doesn't even sell it,
Yeah.
like, it right away, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, these guys had a chance with that promo to be a little different, and now they're just back to being flippy jobbers.
Look, I don't know if you want Moxley to be selling a singular punch, especially from someone who got run off last week. That's not how I would book my top monster, my top heel right now. I would make him look terrifying. Oh, you're just going to hit Moxley? No, dude, no problem. I'm not worried about it. You're fine. Get out of here. Like, what are we doing? Like, if you had him sell, this is why I think this is kind of in bad faith here. If you had him sell, you would say, well, Moxley looks weak. No, man, Moxley's supposed to look feedable right now. You're putting him in a match against Bryan Danielson that could end his full-time career. You need to make him look as strong as possible for as long as you can.
Every babyface in this company starts a fucking fight and promptly gets his ass handed to him.
You know, again, you look at AEW 5 years.
That happens a lot in wrestling.
The very beginning, you looked at Mark Quinn and you said, if this guy had training, if this guy was produced, this guy could be, I don't know if you said top star. I won't go that far, but this guy could be a star.
He could be money for you.
He could be money for you. That was 5 years ago. They're exactly where they were 5 years ago.
That's exactly what Moxley said.
Because 5 years ago, we hadn't seen them get their ass kicked all the time, or be jobbers, or be aligned with the Hardys, or just nonstop bad booking.
Oh, they were suckered.
Why totally
by several,
not? Smart. Why totally not sell? Because you don't need to. I think you need to establish Jon Moxley as a big bad guy, right? I think that Moxley needs to be basically like he can walk through a wall right now because he's motivated by hate or whatever he's motivated by right now. And just have him no sell. We've seen it in movies, right? The good guy hits the bad guy and the bad guy doesn't flinch. He doesn't move. He just looks down, gives him like a wry smile, and usually someone catches a beating after that. We have not put, you usually save that. You would do that with like a secondary or tertiary character, maybe not your main good guy in a movie. But let's be honest, Private Party ain't been built up like that. They're talking about them. Well, they were booked as flippy jobbers. Okay. And now you want the flippy jobber to be able to like take a crack at the baddest dude on the planet in AEW? That doesn't make sense to me. Like Moxley, he hit Moxley, right? It's more of a disrespectful thing to Moxley than it would be like hurting him. He doesn't care. Like Moxley obviously is fine with being hit. He likes getting into fights. That's his thing. So Moxley he's not breaking the hand because he was hurt and he's returning the favor. He's saying, you know, basically you're disrespectful to me and this is why you're going to have this done to you.
Crooked managers, weren't they?
They were. And again, we're 5 years later, you looked at Mark Quinn and you saw the talent there. When was the last time you remember even seeing him in the ring do anything? So they're doing something really wrong with that.
Well, speaking of really wrong, Renee Moxley Good was with Christian Cage and his company.
Renee Paquette, Renee Moxley Good. Just Renee Paquette. You know who she is.
And even Christian's promos now are just kind of, well, it's the same thing he's been doing. He's very well spoken, but we're not covering any new ground here. But then Pip Sabian came in the room.
Oh, another name joke.
Off camera, and Christian Cage tells him off. And he said, I don't care whether your dad's dead.
Well, he was trying to talk to Nick Wayne, right?
Well, I don't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, he was.
Pip Sabian and Nick Wayne used to have a relationship? Were they dating on Saturday nights? What was going on there?
I don't know what's going on with them, but I think that's what it is. He's trying to talk to Nick Wayne, and that's what's causing Christian to, at this point, why could you even be bothered? Every promo he does, no matter who he's feuding with, your wife is dead, your dad's dead, your mom's dead. What the fuck?
Why do you hate Kip Sabian, James?
Dead.
Your fucking promos are dead. Your gimmick is dead. No one cares about this. It's dead.
How did you like the tag team match with Serena and Maria against Queen Waiata and Yuka Sakazaki?
Queen Aminata, who's a very attractive woman, and Yuka.
These dorks. Queen, what about yeah, okay, name joke, great. And then immediately he's like, Brian's like, let me correct you on the name, but then also tell you that she's hot. She's really hot. I'm sorry, dude. Sometimes, like, it's not just wrestling fans, it's wrestling pundits. They're just weird, dude. They're just so weird.
Fans there seem to know and seem to react to. I needed a break.
Yeah.
After that long private party promo and the Christian promo, I needed a little bit of a break, so I actually did not watch this match. I must admit, I'm not really into the AEW women's division.
Surprise.
Well, and then we did you see the Nigel McGuinness package where they actually finally told us that he used to be a professional wrestler?
Jim, sweetie, over here. Come here, Jim. The AEW audience is filled with a bunch of nerds. They know that Nigel was a wrestler. What are we doing? Are you gonna be happy they're gonna talk about ROH though? You were there when Nigel was there, Jim, weren't you?
We just talked about that in the review last week, and we said this was the big thing missing. They're assuming that fans know anything about Nigel when the only thing he's ever done on mainstream TV was as Desmond Wolfe or being a commentator. Maybe it's a little too late considering the events next week.
But at least they tried.
And I thought it was a really good video. I think they did a good job with it.
And also,
it was a great video.
Nigel said, a lot of people don't even know I was a wrestler.
Bleach your hair again. You look cool back then.
There is something to be said for that. Because you see a bleach blonde guy in this day and age, he's a wrestler.
Always? Do people not bleach blonde their hair anymore?
But anyway, folks, we were at 9:00 in this 2-hour program with what we have just described to you.
Yeah, Nigel was getting cheers, man. They didn't know who it was, though.
While in the middle of a rights renewal bumptiousness. So at 9:00, here came Moxley the Plumber, Claudio, and Marina Schaefer.
Whoa! Another name joke. Throw it on the board. Check. Dude, these are so whack. I'm sorry. The fact that people still say that Jim Cornette is funny, like, there's so many misses, dude. This is so lame. This is just, it's the same joke over and over again. Jim, you got one joke. You dunk on conservatives a lot, Jim, but you got one joke too. You got one joke. It's usually directed at women and people of color. Somebody should probably look into that.
Walking through that big empty arena to the ring, and one of the handheld shots kind of strayed too far over to the left for a minute with one of those spotlights playing around, and you could see one side of the building was completely empty. But
well, if you notice, they came out from the empty side so that when the camera shows them coming out, you would only see the fans behind them where the fans are situated.
Yes, it's a piece of a very tough balancing act you got to do there between trying to get a shot and showing that there ain't nobody there.
Having been somebody who's done that shot, it is not terribly difficult at all. I'm not sure what they're talking about the mist or like whatever they said. They showed the empty seats, but I don't know if you're familiar with this, right? Draw something. I think I can draw something like what they got, like a MS Paint. You got MS Paint online that I can just draw with. Let's see, draw online. I draw here. Cool. Okay. So I don't know if you're aware, right? Can I make this bigger? I've never used this app before, so bear with me. All right, so here's the stage, right? Stage. Okay, cool. So this is the ring here. We all know what the ring looks like. It's a square. You have seats over here, seats over here, seats over here on the floor. Then you have your big old places where people sit. These are more seats. Sure. When I went to the AEW show, here's some seats over here. We sat in like this area here. They just had them come out from behind the stage right here, and they hopped the guardrail and came into the ring. That's simple. And the way you shoot that is you can shoot it. You can have your guys here, camera guy here shooting towards this direction where they're coming from. Or you can go this way. You can shoot it this way. Have them come out. This is all empty space right here. There's no man's land right here. So you just have your camera crew come through here, film them towards the stage, and when they turn here, or you can just put a guy right here, right on the corner. There's a million things you do. On the other side, you would just have them come this direction, and then you could shoot it this way. You'd have a camera guy over here, maybe in the first row, maybe the stand's right over here. You would shoot them this way, and then they would take the hard cam shot, which is over here, and shoot them this way. It's very simple, Jim. And I understand, like me, you never touched the cameras or anything while we were there. And I appreciate you putting over how hard wrestling production is. It's difficult, no doubt about it. Jim, we did this in a much smaller venue, and we were able to do it. And I understand the smaller venue doesn't allow for many angles, but with AEW, you can shoot it from here with a crane shot, go in that direction. You have a camera going here facing this way. You have a camera here going this way. Dude, you got cameras. You have a guy down here getting reactions from the fans. It's not tough. It's not tough. All right, appreciate it.
There. But then as soon as they walk to the ring, here comes Private Party, your favorite tag team, Brian. And they jumped Moxley, and he completely no-sold it, and they proceeded to beat the fuck out of Private Party.
Yes, they did.
They couldn't even whip the girl.
He no-sold it to an insulting degree if I was one of those guys, to be very honest with you.
Unprofessionally, to be honest.
There's no
professionally. All right, let's see it. Let's go find it. Can I just still paste there? There you go. Let's see. Let's see if we can find it. Unprofessional amount? That seems a little much. This is awful. I can go back to YouTube. Let's see. I don't necessarily remember it being something egregious, but I'm not going to say it wasn't. Let's see what you got there. Jimothy. Jimarino. See, I say your name wrong too, because it's like you did it earlier. You know what I mean? Mute this down. Moxley coming out. Is this it? All right. Is he going to get jumped here? I can't remember, because I thought it happened when they were in the ring. Is that not the case? No, he's just coming out. Cool. All right. Dynamite Full Gear. This is a Jon Moxley segment. Okay, it's probably in here somewhere. Here they are. All right, let's see. All right, so he's coming up. People are stoked to see Jon Moxley. Do my little wiggle in my shoulder. Do my jaw move around. That's what I do. Oh, dude, I lost my camera. Yeah. Damn it. Sorry, guys. All right, let's look at the segment. Oh, dude, I missed it. I'm going back. My bad, chat. I was not paying attention. All right, so... Oh, forearm shot. Okay, yeah. Moxley no-sells it because I don't think that's terribly disrespectful, guys. I'm sorry. I think that's hyperbole, to be honest with you. Yeah, he threw some forearm shots at him. Also, kind of a whack... if we're going to be nitpicky about it, let's be nitpicky about it then. We're going to do that. Let's do it, Jim. Because... what I would have said is, if you're going to jump somebody that is like Jon Moxley, thank you, James, appreciate it. If you're going to beat somebody up like Jon Moxley, I'm not going to go throw forearm shivers at him. That's ridiculous. I'm throwing haymakers as much as I can, because that's the only way I'm taking down Moxley, is one good punch. Forearm shots ain't doing that. I'm sorry. If that's what we're upset about, I don't know what to tell you.
Selling, and then there's acting like the punch didn't happen, smirking and continuing to walk. That was ridiculous. Yeah. That was egregious. If I was one of those guys, there'd be a problem.
And considering that Moxley is 0 for life against fucking Home Depot
forearm
boys and fucking Kroger employees in these amateur jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Jesus Christ, Jim. Be quiet for a minute. Dude, I'm sorry, but it's not a punch. It is... watch it for it. Forearm shiver, punches to the back. I wouldn't sell it either. I'm sorry. I wouldn't. Especially if you're Jon Moxley in this sense, telling this story. That's not a punch, dude. It's not. All right. He's talking about Jon Moxley and Kroger's or something.
And then there's acting like the punch didn't happen, smirking and continuing to walk.
That's exactly what happened.
That was ridiculous. That was egregious. If I was one of those guys, there'd be a problem.
And considering that Moxley is 0 for life against fucking Home Depot stock boys
Home
and
Depot
fucking Kroger
stockbrokers.
employees and these amateur jujitsu tournaments, I have a feeling Private Party could probably handle him.
See, some babyface has to use that.
Oh my God. Look, Jimothy, Jim Arena. We understand there is a difference between Jon Moxley, the guy on television, and Jon Moxley, the man, the human being. I mean, what's his name? Jonathan Good. Like, those are different people, Jim. He's an actor. He is an actor on television. I do not care about his real life jiu-jitsu record. I don't care that he wants to roll around outside of wrestling. If that's something you are focusing on, you are a hyper-specific wrestling nerd. And good for you, man. We need people like you. We need you to make this content and get all these other hyper-specific wrestling nerds upset that Jon Moxley isn't winning, is not a Olympic-level grappler in judo or jiu-jitsu or whatever the hell he does. It's just, it is a lame complaint. It is a lame complaint.
That Jon Moxley, I challenge you to a grappling match. I've seen the videos. You can't beat anybody. Come on, get in here and let's grapple.
So I know that they complain a lot. I want to point this out too. They complain a lot about doing stuff for the internet fans. Buddy, if somebody, Brian, Mr. Last, if you will, if somebody referenced Jon Moxley's jiu-jitsu skills outside of pro wrestling, like inside pro wrestling, as real, like we need to focus on these are the things, you would say, what are you talking about? Like, Jon Moxley does jiu-jitsu? That's such a hyper specific thing that people know. It's funny though. It is funny that these guys simultaneously rail against them for doing and things that'll pop the internet fans while saying they should also do this stuff to pop the internet fans.
Oh, well, and it went forever. They just beat them up, and the girls beating them up. And then Commander ran out to help, and they beat him up.
Yes, they did.
And then the girl beat up Alex. Poor Alex. What did he do? And then Moxley gets a toolbox and gets a hammer and a microphone.
James in the chat's right. He says, while they do things to pop the internet fans, I know. And there's like this cognitive dissonance in pro wrestling fans that they're like, especially the ones that like believe in this stuff hardcore, like the Jim Cornette fans or like AEW Tribalist or something. Like, people continue to say, like, people say, I'm not the nerds. It's those guys who are the nerds. They do the nerdy stuff. Buddy, you all do it. Everyone does it. I'm not sure what to tell you. Before we get back here, I wanted to say thank you all for everyone who's watching today. We're at 1,100 likes right now, and I appreciate that. If anybody wants to share the stream as well, that will always be appreciated. And if you're not following us on our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. Thank you.
And which one did they have of the Private Party members held down there? Was it Quinn or was it Cassidy?
I don't even
Cassidy.
Well, whatever, they hold the baby face immobile and he's struggling to get away. Like, oh, let me loose, let me loose.
Yep.
And he belittles him to his face and said, I'm going to give you a gift, and then hit his hand with the hammer. And then here
I think that was
Darby.
Cassidy. I think that was Isaiah Cassidy, because that was the one who cut the really good promo, I thought.
Well, that'll teach him. And then here
Good experts.
Darby to make the big save and tackles Moxley. They roll in the ring, and Darby's still carrying his skateboard, but he's not doing anything with it. Claudio doesn't get in the ring to help. Schaefer doesn't get in the ring to help. It's Moxley and Darby in the ring yelling at each other. And then staring at each other.
Dog.
And then Moxley
You been hit by a skateboard?
Darby yelled at him some more.
And so I don't get this, right? And this is something that I have a problem with Jim with, is he's accurately describing the situation, but he's doing so incredulously to say, like, I can't believe they're doing it this way. Buddy, this is typical wrestling stuff. The heels beat up somebody. The babyface, who eventually has a match with the top heel, comes out to make the save because they're in a program together. And then they have a standoff in the ring. The babyface had a weapon. Think of it, I know this might be a different scenario for you, Jim, but think of this as a sting spot with a baseball bat. The NWO necessarily did not run in all the time to get beat up with a baseball bat. Just like the new Jon Moxley faction is not running in to get beat up by a skateboard. Okay? It makes sense. I just don't get it. I just don't understand why you understand professional wrestling. at a very high level and a very high and deep level, you understand professional wrestling. But why is this a problem for you?
Thanks for coming, Private Party. Your thoughts?
Again, I will go back to Private Party because I was so happy they did a good promo, and then it was completely thrown away by the no selling of them. And then, of course,
It's
they
not
just
thrown
for
away,
no good
you
reason,
dork.
take out his hand. Moxley's watching too many movies. See, that's the problem. Because AEW has this not even part-time schedule, he has a lot of time to sit there and catch up on cinema. And he's watching all the things that he hears about, and he just wants to take things from movies and bring them into AEW, whether it's line for line dialogue or whether it's some of these things. This stuff is terrible. Every Jon Moxley thing in AEW has been some version of, I'm a complete badass, I'm going to sell nothing, and then just keep doing this. It was him as a solo, it was him with the BCC, and now it's him with whatever this is. Is this still the BCC?
I don't know what.
I'm sorry, guys, but we have the same thing on WWE. It's Roman Reigns. He acts cool. He does cool stuff. He's undefeatable. It's the same thing. It just Roman doesn't do the hardcore stuff. I don't understand. Like we understand archetypes in professional wrestling. We get the undefeatable babyface. We get the monster heel. We understand all that stuff. But why do we have an issue with it when it's being done on another channel? And I understand it might not be done to Brian Last or Jimmy Cornette's likings, but having said that, it's not bad. I don't think it's bad. Some people might. That's fine. What's chat saying? Oh yes, mark your mind. Yeah, I'm doing the name calling. I'm not being very nice either. That's right. Wouldn't defend that man so much. Let's see. Let's go back in here.
Fuck it is.
Yeah, so
They lost Wheeler. A wheel came off.
who do you put over in the match next week? Darby versus Moxley. Winner getting a title shot.
It's Moxley, bro.
Well,
I know that
This
hasn't happened yet for them, but
just plastic bag over the goddamn champion's fucking head.
yes.
So how is Darby gonna get a title match against Danielson when you'd had?
Sound the alarm. I agree with Jim Cornette. Let's go.
Remember, I swear to God, when I was watching none of this 10 years ago or whatever it was, remember when Moxley was together in the WWE with Rollins and Roman Reigns?
The Shield, yes.
And Uncle Dave was saying, oh, but the star of this group is Moxley. And I was like, boy, that guy must be pretty good. Because I know how good Tyler Black was.
The star of the group is the guy who has the best relationship with my website. That's what it is.
Well, there you go. Now we have found out.
Best relationship with your website. Does Moxley talk to Meltzer? I don't. Moxley doesn't strike me the dirt sheet talking type, but hey, I don't know the man. What's funny though is the number, and it would have been tough to get that answer from the Shield, but Roman Reigns ended up being the top guy. Not without a lot of trial and tribulations, but Roman definitely the top guy out of there. The Shield is one of the greatest factions of all time, producing some of the biggest stars in modern wrestling. So, cheers for them.
Out that what the fuck? So one is the co-biggest star in the business right now, Roman and Cody.
Yep.
One is in the upper echelons of stars in the business, and one is this fucking drunken bum staggering around, losing his hair in front of our eyes on TV every Wednesday night.
Jim, Jim, he has had a very public issue with alcohol. He allegedly has stopped. I think we don't have to say allegedly, just via looking at his body, the way it looks now. Seems good. Seems like he's healthier. But to call him a drunken bum like that is kind of disrespectful. And I feel like you understood that. You understand that. That's not his character. That's not who the man is. And I think you're just doing it for shock value. I mean, it has to be, right? Either that or Jim is just completely unaware of anything going on in the pro wrestling space outside of watching some shows occasionally and complaining about them. But to say the man is a drunken bum is very disingenuous.
Making no sense and stinking a joint out. Uncle Dave can pick
he's
him.
the top. He's one of the top heels on another promotion. He's a bum.
In the AEW basket of puppies and kittens. Ricochet. Did you see the Ricochet match?
Oh boy, did I. Against maybe someone getting equally as good a push right now. The Beast Mortos, I believe.
Rigor mortis. Old rigor mortis.
Another name.
So low rent about him that I let him. It just looks like a generic luchador on like a garage show.
What are the chains? The chains on his bull mask. There are chains hanging down on either side of the cheeks. How can you punch this guy without breaking your hand?
Jim, because they're not real chains, but
Well, anyway,
no, dude. I don't know. I don't think the Beast Mortos looks generic. I think he looks pretty cool. That's a cool look. I don't know, man. He looks all right. The mask has got to be tough to wrestle in, though. I have to say that. That's insane. And there's the chains he's talking about, but you have chains all the time. Maybe it's just on some of his mask. There you go. I don't know. I don't think he looks generic at all, but that's just me.
Got a little bit of it, and I had to get some relief. I had to fast forward through it because it's sloppy, sensical, aggressive parkour because you got what you got here. But it took their new big star Ricochet, who is what'd you say?
I wouldn't say new big star. Ricochet's gonna be in the mid card for a while. G.
Maybe
here you go.
Maybe quicker than that. Yeah.
We've never seen this fucking Mantar until 2 weeks ago, and it took their new big signing 15 minutes to beat this guy, and he did it.
We haven't seen him since Did he say we haven't seen Mortos since 2 weeks ago?
Core, because you got what you got here, but it took their new big star Ricochet, who is what'd you say? A couple weeks ago. How long is it going to take him to be one of the boys? I said about 3 or 4 weeks.
Maybe
here you go.
Maybe quicker than that. Yeah.
We've never seen this fucking Mantar until 2 weeks ago, and it took their new big signing.
We haven't seen the Beast Mortos. He called him Mantar because Jim can't get anybody's name right. I don't know, man. I think he's Bidening out. He's just it's not all there. Let's see. Up until 2 weeks ago, I don't know. I felt like I've seen him a handful of times. Let's see. AEW versus Claudio. This was back in June, so that's a couple months ago. Let's see. He's been on ROH. Cool. That's a AEW property. And now we're back into like 2013 with Impact, AAA. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, he's been there for a couple months, buddy. Has he been used regularly? Maybe Jim's confused because maybe he hasn't seen him regularly. Let's look at since June. One match in June. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches in July for the AEW ROH property. Let's go into last month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, dude. He's had a plenty of matches, my friend. He's had more matches than Roman Reigns has had this year. Not to say that they are at all similar. No way, shape, or form. But the homie has wrestled for the ROH World title. I understand maybe Jim does not watch ROH. That's fine. But to say he hasn't been on television, we've only known about it for 2 weeks, just isn't accurate at all. Didn't he main event? James in chat saying, didn't he main event 2 collisions ago? I don't know. 2 collisions. Let's see. There's a collision. 3-way, hologram, grand slam. So he's going to be, he wrestled last night. That's good. Grizzled young vet. That might have been it. Yeah, man. He's been wrestling in a lot of matches.
Minutes to beat this guy, and he did it with a head kick to a stationary target that didn't come close.
He's just talking. Chat saying he's just talking about Dynamite. Jim only watches Dynamite. Damn, maybe you're right. Maybe Jim only doesn't watch. Yeah, Rampage, Dynamite in July. Yeah. Jim just doesn't watch Rampage or Collision.
First DDT slam thing. Not even a flying dingbat off the top rope.
Flying dingbat.
There was a spot that people started sending around of Ricochet going for a kick or a stomp of some sort and completely missing.
Yes, that was there's the bull of the woods, baby, is on his knees with his head bent over, and Ricochet jumps up and is going to do a big flying stomp and came down like 6 inches in front of the guy's head and stomped the mat, and the guy collapsed.
Yep.
And
I don't know if Jim knows this, but you're not supposed to really hit him. Yeah, dude, sometimes that happens. Get over it.
And 15 minutes again of this.
Doesn't help Ricochet, his promos. Because
True.
The thing with him and Ospreay, the more he talks, I think the less people are going to want to hear him talk ever again.
I agree wholeheartedly, right? Those promos that he cut with Will Ospreay, that's what I was talking about earlier when I said, speak like you normally would. If I went up and said, Mr. Ricochet, I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna beat you up here and now. You wouldn't say, I've been out stacking wins. I don't know if you got it, what it takes. No one's afraid of you. No, man, that's not what you would do. You wouldn't do that. And I understand Ricochet is like a superhero based character, I guess you could say. But like, it's just have somebody write this man some stuff and maybe take a class, maybe work on your dialogue a little bit. Wrestling is a skill you have to hone, you have to craft, and talking in wrestling is a part of that. Most definitely is. All right. So just keep that in mind. Ricochet just can't go out there. It doesn't seem like he has the ability, the gift of gab, just to go out there and just freestyle something. It has been lackluster. I agree with Brian last here. I agree with Jim Cornette here. It's something they can work on, and it's something I see as a fan and somebody who has a little bit of knowledge of how this stuff works, is you have the ability to work with him on these things. And if Ricochet doesn't continue to grow, it shows one of two things. Either AEW's inability to have that conversation with people and say, yo, you need to work on this stuff. You need to do these things because you're not where we need you to be. And that's how a business works. That's how you get your business to be better. That's how you get your performers to be better, by investing in them. Now, having said that, it could be AEW's fault. It could be Ricochet not having any interest in learning more or doing different things. I hope it's neither one of those, right? I hope it's not. I think Ricochet has insane potential in the ring. We already know that. We've seen it through Lucha Underground and shades of NXT when he was in WWE. But the talking portion has always been an Achilles heel for him. If he can just spend the time, effort, and energy working on it, I think we're going to have something with him.
I swear to God, we'll skip ahead. Because
Chat, you need to hydrate. Chat, hydrate now.
In between, but then the next time we saw Ricochet after the Battle of the Whiff Kick, he and Ospreay were in the back challenging each other. They're both baby faces, by the way. Ospreay is very popular, and Ricochet was presented in a way.
Ospreay is very popular. This is your unfunny uncle stuff, dude. This is just whack.
As to he should be popular, but now they're mad
Popular
at each
again.
other. And they're going to fight on October 2nd for the international title. Boy, whoopee, can't wait.
Smack me in the head.
And here's what I wrote. The longer Ricochet talks, the worse it is.
Yeah.
Fair. No, that's fair. Fair criticism. Fair criticism to Jim there.
You can't even understand what he's saying, but at least he holds you.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. But with Ricochet, you hear it and
you're like,
you're not really stirred by it.
Yeah, you're like, I hate this guy. I don't want to hear this guy talk anymore. He's making me not like him at all.
Very off-putting.
Well, Jim, maybe Ricochet, maybe the problem is,
what is his problem?
Maybe he missed that stomp. Maybe he's talking in a boring manner, in a voice that no one wants to hear. Maybe because he didn't get a good night's sleep.
No.
Well, that is
we're not going to listen to an ad read. I'm going to adjust this camera's focus a little bit. There you go. All right. We're not listening to an ad read.
Said they slept better with CBD.
They could use some of this over there at the creative team at Dynamite.
They're on the hard stuff. They're who supported Swerve, but it took him about 45 seconds to say he looks like he ought to be riding a big wheel instead of a CE.
That's right. Promo code JCE. Check CB Distillery out today. Let us know what you think. But Jim, let's get back to Dynamite. They could use some of this over there at the creative team at Dynamite.
No, they're on the hard stuff. They're on the stuff that they're using the clinical surveys on. I think as a matter of fact, they get some of this stuff from a lab in Wuhan.
Really?
Oh, there we go, Jim. There you go, Jim. Lab in Wuhan. Great joke, Jim. Great joke. Dude, it is insane. Chat saying racism from no. It's okay, right? I get why Jim Cornette is not beating the racist allegations. It almost seems like, and hear me out, anytime there's somebody with a name that he can't readily pronounce, he makes fun of it. Jim also seems to make fun of all the women as he mispronounces their name and makes fun of them all the time. And then you make a Wuhan, China joke. Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing?
That the brain trust over at AEW is taken. Because next up, they thought it was a good idea on this rotten television program to have Tony Schiavone interview in the ring hangnail Adam Page.
Dude, he did it to a white guy this time. Hell yeah, equal opportunity. I take back everything I say.
And I've decided that Adam Page is to wrestling promos what Helen Keller was to opera singing.
I take it all back. Jim making fun of the blind, deaf Helen Keller. Another stellar reference from his childhood, I assume, because he's ancient. Buddy, that's what I'm saying. There wasn't enough people taking shots at Helen Keller. She was sitting real comfy. She got her own commemorative quarter, and people aren't really giving Helen Keller enough of that work. Not getting that Helen Keller smoke. Jim, thank you so much for knocking that out of the park, baby.
Oh,
he is just what the. He comes again, another pretend wannabe badass. He can't carry it off. He's not Magnum TA. He looks like he ought to be riding a big wheel instead of a fucking Harley.
All right, he's mentioning Magnum TA. Does anyone in this chat under the age of 20 know who Magnum TA is? Reggie proves my point exactly in the chat. Reggie, hey, it's good to see you, buddy. Magnum who? Magnum who? Yeah, dude. Magnum TA. How do people not know about Magnum TA? Dude, it's insane. It is. So I don't know if you know. He does have like the Magnum TA look kind of here. And it's probably the mustache and probably the leather jacket, right? That's why he's all about it. But Magnum TA was a wrestler who had an unfortunate car accident. There we go. Who had an unfortunate car accident and ultimately shortened his wrestling career. I think he crashed and had a retirement. So Magnum TA, he had a wreck that caused his C4 and C5 vertebrae to explode. He was like the next guy. I mean, look at him. Look at this man. Yeah, dude, he's him. He was up next. He was going to be the next biggest star in professional wrestling. Unfortunately, that accident took that away from him. Now, having said that, he was an 80s wrestler, and this happened in 1986. Most people don't understand this reference. I think a lot of people have just know who Magnum TA, just figuring out who Magnum TA is now. I know Jim Cornette's audience probably does know. They probably skew a little bit older, which is fine. Slayer in the chat says I'm 52 and I know who he is. Hell yeah. I would love to have seen him in his prime. What car was he driving? Was he like October 14th, 1986, Alan was driving his Porsche in the rain, lost control, striking a telephone pole. The wreck happened on this road in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple miles from his home. Initially, investigators believe he was speeding, but forensic reports showed that he was driving the speed limit, and he was left in his car for 2 hours before witnesses called 911. Damn, dude. Terrible. Yeah, they said the doctors at Carolina's Medical Center said Allen's physical condition saved his life. Because he was a big, beefy boy, it saved his life. So hit those weights. Hit those weights, people.
Early. He is not a cow. He may be a cowgirl, but so after Tony Schiavone mangled the introduction to this, trying to ask Page why he said he would be after anyone who supported Swerve, but it took him about 45 seconds to say that. You're gonna be mad at anyone behind him there. Then Page starts talking and doing his new bit now since he's changed personalities because. Well, he hadn't changed personalities. He didn't have one to begin with. Now he's got a fake one.
Jim, they're all fake personalities, babe. I don't know if you know this, Jim, but Hangman didn't really burn down Swerve's childhood home. It is weird the things that he complains about. I don't get it. Reggie in the chat saying, I'm confused on why he's a cowgirl. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't think Hangman Adam Page is femme presenting at all. Not only that, his name is Hangman Adam Page. It's just Jim is making fun of women here again. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I could get in trouble.
Do you know Tony Schiavone just stands there and doesn't even look at he's just holding the microphone like he's staring off into space somewhere. Is that supposed to convey his indignant look, or what is, if a guy interviewing me was ignoring me like that, I'd get mad at him and threaten him too, wouldn't you?
I mean, I don't know how many times I can go over it. Shivani's awful at his job. He's terrible on commentary. And
Damn,
even the
dude.
things where he holds the microphone, he either hands the microphone and walks away, or he just says dumb things. And some people there like him
Yeah.
because he's the friendly old man version of Shivani.
I've always gotten along with Tony. I always liked Tony myself, but if he,
Terrible. He's terrible.
I know it.
Damn, dude, I didn't think that bad
don't
about
know
Tony,
what a
but
good
I'll keep an
announcer
eye on
would
him.
do with this rotten program, but he's got to try, doesn't he? Something.
When was the last
Anyway.
time Tony Schiavone tried? That was the whole problem with him in WCW. He was just this empty shell, seemingly breathing and blinking, but spitting out just nonsense all the time. And he does it here. Everything's the greatest. The fans are up. Good call. He says nothing. He's there because he's Tony Khan's stooge, which is the role he's sought out since the beginning of AEW.
Damn.
Yeah, well, and there was so much competition for that one too. I'm surprised he was able to place so highly. But anyway,
Yeah, I didn't think
Page
Shivani was
says
bad.
threatens Tony. He's going to beat Tony up because Tony's
Here's my thing. I don't think Shivani's that bad. I don't think he adds a ton, but it is a nostalgia thing, and I think that is probably part of it, right? I know they were saying like, oh, he's Tony Khan's stooge. Okay, could be the case. I don't know. But I do think what is more likely the case is Tony Khan, like myself, grew up watching WCW. We like Tony Schiavone's voice. I don't know. It's calming. It's like warm blanket. Jim, you know about nostalgia. That's all how you want people to book stuff. It's a nostalgia play, if I was to say. I think there are probably better color commentators out there, but I like Tony Schiavone. I'm never going to like. I will watch him a little more closely this week or on Sunday. He does Collision sometimes. No, he doesn't. I'll have to go back and watch last night's show, and I'll watch him. But yeah, I don't expect Tony Schiavone to be throwing out insane information and facts or like yelling and calling moves. I expect that from Excalibur. I expect that from Taz. Tony, a 3-man booth, is kind of in a no man's land. He's giving not a lot of other character beats, not a lot of other things. He's kind of reacting. Maybe he's the fan at home who's saying things. And that 3-man desk can be a little convoluted, right? But hold on, chat saying, I like Tony, but not in the commentary, to be honest. I like him better as an interview. Yeah, man, make him an interview. That's fine. Like the Mean Gene Okerlund role, right? We all love WCW. Put him in the Mean Gene role. I understand he's not adding a ton on commentary, and that's fine. But wait, sorry, hold on. So this cartoon, and I'm keeping coming back to this cartoon because it's absolutely ridiculous. So we have Tony dressed as Chef Boyardee, Tony Khan, right? Jim Cornette over here is Captain Hook because they referenced Captain Hook, so now they have to have a whole drawing. And this was Tony Schiavone as Shmi, I believe his name is. Did Tony Khan poison both of them? I don't know. Such a weird drawing. Like somebody spent time, effort, and energy on this, and I don't want to like crap on people's art, but like such a weird thing to do. I hope Jim pays for this. Does Jim pay for this stuff? Because having a line item in your budget to draw Tony Khan is follicle work. It is so funny to me that Jim Cornette could have. He's paying somebody. Hopefully you're paying somebody, Jim, to make this art. And one of those things is check for Tony Khan dressed as Chef Boyardee holding poison, Jim Cornette dressed as Captain Hook, and Tony Schiavone dressed as Shmi, with the worst calzones you've ever seen drawn.
said good things about Swerve, and then Jeff Jarrett came out to save the day, and Paige beat the shit out of him all around ringside.
Chat
And
saying
then
he does
security
pay. He does
went
pay
out
for his
and was
artwork.
Trying to fight back, and
Good.
Paige fucking left. And then Jeff said, well, I'm not going to let Paige touch Tony. No, you didn't. You let him beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, you idiot. What sense did that make?
And I mean, at least Jeff was trying to show a little fire at the end there. The security came in and everything. But God almighty, every baby face. It just...
Where's the Giant? Where's Sanjay? Where's his whole little clique of people who don't do anything? Why aren't they beating him up too?
Fair. Where's Jeff
Well, they
Jarrett's
were out
boys?
there to help pull him apart after he got his ass handed to him.
Put money on Karen Jarrett against Adam Page. Why isn't she
Yeah.
going after him?
You know what?
Why isn't Karen Jarrett going after Adam Page? What a very progressive take. You know, she should get out there and beat up Hangman Adam Page. Good stuff.
I'll goddamn guarantee I've seen her in action.
Oh, really?
Oh, quit.
At one of those freak offs that you guys have?
No, come on.
At one of those freak offs that you have, one of those Jim Cornette freak offs, Brian.
I've been hearing about this. It's in the news.
She'll ring your bell.
Oh,
Karen could.
How much does that cost? How much?
Stop talking like that, you filthy-minded individual. I'm saying Karen Jarrett could kick the shit out of Hangnail Page. I'm convinced of it.
Hangnail Page. Jesus.
You know what Hangnail
Dude.
Page is? He may have been a sap, but he was so nice as a drunk. He was just such a nice, happy drunk, all things considered, seeing how he turned out.
We'll see that.
Maybe he needs to drink again.
Yeah, you got to get back on the book.
James, I'm not going to touch on that one, but I am going to read your chat. You know, James, I'm going to read this chat for no other reason other than the fact that you wrote it down, and I think it's time to read some chat. It says, he isn't joking. Brian Last, I assume we're talking about. Remember, Cornette has been accused of similar things. Power in exchange for favors. Just rumors. Yes, just rumors. You know what? Somebody will once... I wouldn't put a lot of stock in following Jim too terribly close, right? I don't know specifics, but working in the Louisville professional wrestling scene for as long as I have, you hear things. I am not in the business of talking about other people in that sense until somebody else comes out and confirms those things. But yes, you do hear rumors.
That's the thing. They're wanting us to say this guy is now, or wanting us to think
Hangnail, let me spit out my water.
That this guy is now some
comedy genius,
homicidal maniac that burns houses down and exacts retribution on people when he was a morose, simpering drunk hanging out with fucking comedy job guys for 2 years in his life. And then they realized maybe about 1 year and 11 and a half months too late that they'd made a mistake, and then it's too late.
Based on the way Jeff Jarrett's been used, especially over the last...
I feel like we're really cutting out the points. Like, he didn't go from being comedy job guy to immediate this guy. That's not what happened at all. Like, are we just ignoring the fact that, like, Swerve Strickland broke into his house and psychologically tormented this man? So much so that Hangman Adam Page drank Swerve's blood and spit it in the air. It wasn't, let's do the Dark Order stuff and then immediately go into that match with Swerve. There was an escalation, so much so that I think this is the best feud in pro wrestling is Hangman and Swerve. It's a forever feud. It is something that they can always go back to, and I don't think we have a lot of those. And to chat's point here, James is saying Hangman is drinking again. That was something they've been telling. When Hangman Adam Page, they had that promo, right? Hangman Adam Page was at his old house. It was empty. He was at a house, right? And it was empty. That was showing the story that Hangman had told that they had to move because of Swerve Strickland. His wife did not feel safe in their house. Hangman was drinking alone in an empty house of his that his wife and everybody, they had moved out. The house that he thought he was going to raise his kids in, that psychologically broke the man. That's why he's drinking again. He was drinking outside of Swerve's house when he burned it down. Hangman is not a happy drunk anymore. I mean, he was a little bit at the beginning, but we saw what the alcohol was doing to him, and it was ruining his life bit by bit. That was the first heel turn when he was being mean to Kenny Omega. Same thing here, man. Same thing here.
6 months or so. Considering everything that happened with Adam Page and Swerve, is this an acceptable side thing until Swerve comes back?
Well,
yeah, of course it is.
Things here lately with Jeff that made the people like him.
Yes.
He's been doing the heel thing, and the people didn't want to like Jeff because he's too old school wrestling for that crowd or whatever. So it did, and it was with Sanjay and the comedy stuff and the goofy pinhead giant. And that was gaga, but Jeff can still work.
Yep. Jeff's good.
They had him do that interview with Danielson and try to give him the pep talk or whatever.
Hydrate
people
chat.
Started liking it. And you could have made Jeff Jarrett into a personality that while his best days in the ring may be behind him, he could be a mentor, motivator, or coach to some needy and I'm not talking about some fucking job guy off the bottom of the barrel. I'm talking about coming in when Danielson needs a helping hand, or coming in when another top babyface needs words of encouragement, and they get close, and then you beat up Jeff to get heat on the match with the top babyface that he's goddamn mentoring and the guy that beat him up. And you can.
Okay, so I feel like I understand where Jim's going with this. And I agree. You could eventually get there, but I don't think now's the time. Jeff Jarrett still can wrestle matches. Let him do this. The whole story that they're telling with Jeff Jarrett and Hangman Adam Page is Hangman Adam Page at the Battle Royal to try to get, or was it the Casino Gauntlet match to get the title shot at Swerve at the time. He choked Karen Jarrett, which is not a good guy thing to do. I think we all can agree on that. Hangman is throwing all of his morals away because he was blinded by hatred. And that was the exact story that Mr. Jeff Jarrett was telling him as well. By that I mean, when Jeff Jarrett said, I know where you're at. I've been there. I've seen guys do that stuff. It's never good. You need to turn around or you're going to lose yourself. Everything that's made you who you are, Hangman. It was a nice little segment. I think you finished telling that story because, and I think they're doing it wonderfully because for the first time in a long time, Jeff Jarrett's getting babyface reactions. Hilarious. I love that. I love that when Hangman is at the bottom of his barrel, the guy who's trying to save him is quote unquote like the scummiest man in professional wrestling. A lot of people don't like Jeff Jarrett for one reason or another. He's been portrayed as kind of a bad guy in real life. I don't know if that's necessarily true because he keeps popping up in every single promotion. Either Jeff Jarrett is actually a nice guy behind the scenes that people like to work with, or he's got footage on everybody because he pops up everywhere. But having said that, this is Jeff Jarrett trying to take it upon himself to stop a younger wrestler. He is indeed kind of mentoring Hangman Adam Page in a different way, saying, yo, we gotta stop this. I don't care what it takes, but I'm going to stop you from continuing on this path because you're not going to like the man you become. So much so that Jeff Jarrett said, if it's the last thing I do in my career, I'm going to whoop your ass, Hangman Adam Page. Good stuff. Great stuff. And I think that shows us the finish line for Jeff Jarrett's career is near. And if you can have Jeff Jarrett go out with babyface reaction, do it. Do it. 100%. 100%. I don't think this Jeff Jarrett story is over yet. I didn't. They had that match on Collision. No spoilers in the chat, but I don't think it's over.
You can even have the match first because Jeff can work and he can get all these green fuckers through the shit where it would make sense. But then they blew that within weeks to where now, okay.
Chat saying they stopped and talked with
people like
Jeff Jarrett in LA and says cool guy didn't have to stop. It's very nice. Awesome.
Establish some relationship, some importance for somebody to have Jeff giving them this talking to and on their side. And then Jeff has to show that he's still capable of standing up for himself and maybe beat a few fucking miscellaneous people. And then the other guy has the match and he gets the shit kicked out of him in the end and the angle is done. And the other guy, I don't know what the fuck I'm even going through this for.
All right. Well,
I don't even know what he was saying.
Going through whatever the fuck it is we're talking about here, but that was the Adam Page, Tony Schiavone, Jeff Jarrett segment.
Yes.
Go out of your way not to see that. But what else was on this show, Jim?
The 6-man tag team match. Explain this one to me, Lucy. Osprey and Felcher and Take a Shit with Don Fallis against
you know what I'm going to say.
The Hartley Boys and O'Cody. Okay,
bro, he hit the rare 6-name make fun of spot. Insane. 6 names. The man is truly an icon in the name game world. I'm sorry. The man's the GOAT. If you need somebody's name to be made fun of, the man is the GOAT. He's not at Trump's level. Trump used to have that juice, though. He ain't got that juice anymore. He would be like, come on, blah, blah. No, dude, you're whack. Get out of here. Get out of here. Jim E. Cornette. James E. Cornette, the new GOAT in making fun of people's names. Boom, mark it down. He's so talented. He's so talented at it. So talented. Michael Jordan of making fun of people's names.
They're all heels, except for Osprey, who's supposed to be a babyface after he asked out of the heel manager's stable. But the heel manager and his friend Felcher asked him to come back for this 6-man tag team match. But they're all heels.
So why did Will Ospreay join? Well, because, Jim, they set it up in the pre-tape. A long, long time ago, Will Ospreay was granted his release from Don Callis' family out of his contract in exchange for a favor to be named later. This is the favor. They Chekhov's gun the favor a long time ago. This is the payoff. And I'm sorry, if you're not familiar with what's going on, sit it out.
Who would give a shit about this? It makes no sense.
It does make sense.
What is Don Callis' purpose there now?
He's trying to get his tag team. He's trying to get gold to the Don Callis family.
The one team is the EVPs that have been running rampant. They're not really running rampant anymore, but nothing was ever done to make them stop running rampant.
No, it's true. I'm with them there. They have been quote unquote running rampant. I don't think so. I think they have dropped the ball. I think AEW hasn't completely dropped the ball on this EVP storyline. After they give Tony Khan the Meltzer driver, like, there was not a lot of like friction there, and maybe that's not the story they want to tell right now, but I agree that it's nothing. Like, they need to do more with that storyline. I'm sorry, but the EVP is not really defending their titles. You could say, well, the storyline, they don't have to defend their titles because they get to make the matches, and they're not giving Okada any big challengers because they're his boy. His boys are the Young Bucks. So why would they put Okada against people who could actually beat him? Cool. I get that. But if you're going to tell that story, make it a little more overt, because there needs to be something added to this. It seems like we were really onto something and it just kind of petered out.
And they pile drove the owner of the company. It's never been mentioned again, and except it was just for the NFL documentary, right?
Right. And
yeah,
that was a big thing this week where NFL.
No, man, I'm with you on that, Jim.
A day with Tony Khan thing where he had the neck brace on.
Yes.
And his idea of selling the angle was being able to do everything he would normally do, just wearing a neck brace.
Yes.
And other people from other teams were saying, what's going on with that neck brace?
They were making fun of him.
They were mocking him.
Dude, I'm sorry. Like, this is some dork shit to care about. Tony Khan wasn't selling a neck brace. He's wearing a neck brace from his fictitious passion project of AEW to his real shoot job working in the NFL. He is not a trained actor. He's not a trained wrestler. He's doing something wrestling related on a main stage. That's fun. That's cool. I'm sorry. Like, if you're concerned about Tony Khan selling, I need you to take a day off. Go outside. Touch grass. He's a billionaire with no acting experience. What do you want from him? Of course, people are going to make fun of him. He's selling a wrestling injury. He's selling a TV show injury. It would be like the guy who plays Jon Snow selling a stabbing from the Night King out in real life. It's weird, okay? It is weird. But like, to make fun, to nitpick about his selling,
as you would expect.
And he could hear them, and he said,
dork stuff.
One of the clips. Well, see if you like it. If you get pile driven, what the fuck is the budget?
And it seems like now, looking back, that he only did that for this documentary because it did nothing to help the business, nothing to build into future weeks of television. It was a useless, what should have been a major angle.
When was the last time it was mentioned on TV?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I don't recall. But the other thing in that NFL documentary, apparently they show Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone's avatar. They showed Tony Khan 5 years ago, like on an NFL field with.
It's a good question, James. He says, does Cornette think people take wrestling seriously? I think so, right? And I think that it might be being in the wrestling bubble, but like, dude, everyone outside of the wrestling bubble thinks this is dork shit. Which, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe this is a stupid thing to care about, but I care about it. I care about it an awful lot. And to like think that people, I understand that there are levels that some people do not care as much as some people, which is fine. No worries. No problem with that. But like, to think that everyone is so hyper focused on this, like, people on the internet were psyched to see him in the neck brace on TV. The internet was excited to see it. People laughed about it. We had a good time. But like, when you're looking at something that is generally fun or interesting and you just sit there and you cross your arms and you're like, he didn't do it good enough. He should have done it better. Like, you're a dork, dude. That's dork stuff. It's fun. Wrestling's supposed to be fun. It is in this weird space that we live in. And we're focused so much on this, like, oh, he didn't do the right things. Or we're focused on business metrics. I don't know about you, but I'm not gonna LARP. I'm already invested in fake or in predetermined professional fighting. Like, I don't have the time to be LARPing as a TV executive.
He looked normal, didn't he?
It was like another person. It was like another, not to say that if you would have sat down with him, he wouldn't have just spit out a bunch of shit like he does with everyone else.
I can vouch for phone calls.
But it's like night and day what the wrestling business has done to him. It's night and day.
Night and day.
Thanks, Jim.
Heel teams going at each other. Why anybody would give a shit, I have no idea, except for the people who wanted to see a bunch of video game moves, because that's what this was. Nearly a half an hour with the overrun of indie-rific bullshit. They have their own referee, the corpse ref, Rick Knox, so they can do whatever, the flipping and flopping, the same old shit. I don't know there was a tag in the last 5 minutes of this match at least. It's just people run.
So, Jim, why did they have this match? Okay, Jim, I can explain it to you, right? Easy enough, right? So the Young Bucks are currently the tag team champions. Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay won the tag team Casino Battle Royal Gauntlet match, which gives them the tag team title opportunity, right? So the Young Bucks are also in a faction called the Elite. The Elite also includes the one and only Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. So the Bucks and Kazuchika Okada are in a team together, along with Jack Perry. Jack Perry wasn't invited. I don't know why. Maybe they don't like Jack. That's fine. Maybe they have a fourth guy to get. Okay, cool, whatever. So, Jim, and stay with me here. Will Ospreay made a team with Kyle Fletcher. They used to be in a tag team together. The United Empire. Yeah, United. So they have a history together, right? And Will Ospreay has a history with the Don Callis family, as he was a part of the family. So much so that we discussed this earlier, right? It is the favor that they're cashing in. Now, for Konosuke Takeshita, he and the Rainmaker have been kind of eyeing each other back and forth. AEW has been slowly telling the story that we are eventually getting, very soon, I would imagine, Konosuke Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada, right? We've been telling that story. And it is concerning that you, a man of your advanced age and years in the business, if you don't understand that, I'm worried you're not watching the product. At least it seems like you're watching it because you talk about it. So I'm worried about retention at this point. Like, are you not retaining this stuff? That's what I'm thinking the issue is here. But Jim, it all makes sense, my friend. And it's not like I'm making this stuff up. I'm not trying to shoehorn it in. That's what they've been doing. Sometimes watching the product explains the product.
Running at each other and doing things. And most of them look like children. Take a shit's got a ton of potential.
Another name.
Did have. He's been wasted. They didn't do anything with him when they had the opportunity. Then they bring in other Japanese wrestlers that are much worse than he is and pay him a lot more. Felcher, good young athlete with some kind of focus on something. You could do something with him. Ospreay, we've said, needs to be produced, or he'll just be a video game. But the people like him, and you could work with him. And, of course, we know the Hardley Boys are a total loss. And, Cody, how long is it going to be, Brian?
The Hardley Boys? Seems like he'd use that for the Young Bucks, or use that for the Hardy Boys, but whatever. Like I said, maybe I shouldn't speak on it because I don't watch Jim that much.
Before people quit pretending that this guy can move or can bump, he can't move. He doesn't bump. His strikes barely connect. He moves like a hippo with a hernia.
Who are we talking about?
How long is it going to be, Brian, before people quit pretending that this guy can move?
Who are they talking about?
They can do whatever, the flipping and flopping, the same old shit. I don't know there was a tag in the last 5 minutes of this match at least. It's just people running at each other and doing things. And most of them look like children. Take a shit's got a ton of potential, or did have. He's been wasted. They didn't do anything with him when they had the.
He's been wasted. I don't know, man. He's on television. Seems to be wrestling on television against Kazuchika Okada, the Bucks, wrestling with Will Ospreay. Seems good, guys. I don't know what you want. I don't know what people want when they're saying like people are wasted. He's on television. They're like, if you would say that and he was not on television ever. Okay, fine. Yeah, you can wasting by not using them on television. Fine, totally get that. But buddy, he's on national television in America. He's on he's featured on the second largest wrestling promotion in the world. What are we talking about?
The opportunity, then they bring in other Japanese wrestlers that are much worse than he is and pay him a lot more. Felcher, good young athlete with some kind of focus on something. You could do something with him. Osprey, we've said, needs to be produced, or he'll just be a video game. But the people like him, and you could work with him. And of course, we know the Hardley Boys are a total loss. And Cody, how long is it going to be, Brian, before people quit pretending?
He was talking about Okada.
Can move, or can bump, or can he can't move. He doesn't bump. His strikes barely connect. He moves like a hippo with a hernia. And he's trying as hard as possible not to get hurt or break a sweat.
Dang, dude. Jim Cornette is complaining about a heel, working as a heel. But I don't, like, it's from your own mouth, my friend. If you're a heel, don't do babyface stuff. Don't do flippy, fun, fast, high spots. Do stuff the opposite of. What are we talking about? Look, the last video I did on this, the cult of Cornette was strong in the comments, right? And I want to try to extend the olive branch to them, right? Do you, with your own eyes, think Okada is washed? And I mean that. Watch a match. Watch any match from him in the last couple months. There hasn't been a ton of them. Like, it's one thing to not like certain wrestlers, right? Okay, whatever. It's your preference. I'm not worried about that. But it's another thing to, like, say things that are objectively incorrect. And I know wrestling is a subjective thing, but I don't think anyone's looking at Kazuchika Okada as saying, wash. And he calls him Cody. Reggie in the chat's asking what other Japanese wrestlers have they brought in? Sign? I can't really think of any. They brought in like Ishii from time to time. Maybe he's getting confused with Forbidden Door, and maybe he thinks that like those people work there now. I don't know.
He moves like he's in quicksand. Can you argue with anything I just said?
I've always liked Okada in New Japan when I watched his big matches, but I cannot argue that he has been a non-entity in AEW. And despite the push and the belt and the alignment with the Bucks, he's been a non-entity. And in the ring, he has been disappointing, at least to me and seemingly to a lot of other people. And the other part of the problem is,
I think it's fair to say that he's been a non-factor, right? He has been attached to the Bucks, which I think is fine. I think that would be fine if they were doing the stuff correctly. I just think they've kind of dropped the ball with the Bucks storyline. I'll be honest, it is kind of like they had a lot of gas on the fire when they did the TK driver to Tony Khan, but since then it has been a little lackluster. I want them to have, and maybe this would have been the better case to have Tony like out for longer. He can still go to the show. I don't care, right? But like, don't have him come out and address the crowd and just make it seem like Tony Khan's not there. Have the Bucks have a little reign of terror, and maybe that's something they're building up to. I know the Bucks put out the photo today of them and Shane McMahon. Maybe that is, maybe it isn't, right? I don't know, but I think they could be telling that story better. But I don't think Okada is washed by any sense of the imagination. You know, it's just. I don't think he's washed, but I do agree that he has not been utilized to his full potential, for sure.
On one side, you kind of have, in a perfect world, a little shot of the future. Osprey, Fletcher, and again, I think the more you see of him, at least for me, yeah, he does a lot of the stupid stuff everyone does, because those are all the people he's around, and he has no one producing him. Who's giving him ideas? Don Callis? But he's got size, and he's getting bigger. He's still a young guy.
Yeah.
Takeshita, I've always been high on, and you have too when you watch him. He's been a non-entity because he hasn't been around, but they're against the Bucks and Okada. The Bucks are dead. I mean, they are frighteningly dead. When you really think about the buzz they once had around them, it's amazing to see how little anyone cares about them and how little the AEW fans care about them. And Okada,
but it's one thing.
I wouldn't say they don't care about them. I would say the storyline's not good. But when we went to the show in Lexington, during the tag match, the Bucks were getting "Thank You Bucks" match or chants during the match because the match was good. They were basically saying thank you to the Bucks for putting it on, or like at least doing this for the tag match or for the Casino Gauntlet match. I don't think that. Maybe that's a feeling that they have. Obviously, you can have that feeling that the Bucks are not, liked, but the people in the building seem to like them.
Once you've seen what you see, it ain't gonna change.
Yeah, and if you saw it in 2015, it's the same thing it is now. It's just they're older and less interesting. There's no potential anymore. It used to be, oh man, they can go to WWE, or they could go to Ring of Honor, or they could do this. They could start their own company. We're 5 years later. There's nothing left. Barely any hair left, but there's nothing left. And Okada, at least he shows up for work. I'll give him that. There's a lot of millionaires in AEW who don't go to work, apparently. At least he shows up. But
because he's booked on the show, babe.
Tuned out.
You know how that works. Brian, you don't go to the shows you're not booked on. I don't know if you know that. But if your work doesn't need you for a day, you don't go to work. Seems pretty self-explanatory.
And this isn't something I would have done a few years ago, even with the Bucks inclusion. But I didn't give a shit. And we know that they're building towards the story with the Callis family and Ospreay. It was all about the story, not about the match, but AEW focuses on the match, not the story.
And again, if we knew whose side we were supposed to be on, this would be a lot easier.
You know whose side you're supposed to be on. The one baby face on one of the 6-man tag teams of heels. So one wrestler in 2 tag teams.
If he gets screwed over when he's teaming up with the people that are going to screw him over, then doesn't he deserve to get screwed over? Because,
Ryan understands it.
Of course I bet you I'm a snake.
I just want to know if anyone has the guts, if anyone has said to Tony Khan's face, you cannot book television. Even if you want to be the matchmaker for the pay-per-views, let someone else who's not one of the wrestlers.
Has anybody told Tony Khan he can't book television? I would imagine so. Tony Khan is on Twitter a lot. I'm sure he sees comments, my friends. I'm sure he's aware. And I understand that his style of booking television isn't going to be for everybody, and that's fine. That's cool. I enjoy it. I think he's done a decent job, especially somebody who has zero idea of how the professional wrestling business was booked until he started booking it. I mean, I'm sure he knows and understands a little bit, but he had never really booked a show until he started booking wrestling. The fact that he has the audience that he does have, the fact that he's getting the television deal that he's about to get, I would say is a pretty clear indication that he knows at least something here. But has anybody I'm sure CM Punk told him to his face.
Put together the television show. The TV never does them any favors.
No, I don't think anyone from his employees have told him that.
I bet you that probably the only person ever told him to his face that he was a rotten booker is currently one of the biggest stars in the WWE.
Which one?
Well, and that doesn't even narrow it down. Either Punk or Cody, probably Punk. I don't know.
To his point, it definitely would have been Punk if anybody. I saw an interview with Cody who said he enjoyed working with Tony. He's a very smart person. He understands wrestling. He even said so much so on the Forbes video that I saw with him, Cody was talking about Tony, and he said that is impressive that how a person who has not grown up in this business or working in this business can understand it. He was putting over the fact that, like a lot of fans do, we think that we can know better just because we've watched it. And sometimes you can. Sometimes you can watch something so long and be able to piece together on how to do it. He was very appreciative, or he's very complimentary of Tony Khan. So also Cody would never say anything bad about anybody except Disco Inferno.
Cody just probably wanted to just get the fuck out of there before he got any on him. And yes, I love you all, but I must go.
It was very bad at the end, but the thing is, Cody's very diplomatic. Punk is not diplomatic, especially if you're going to be the one fucking him over. So
so I'm pretty sure Tony's heard it, but he doesn't listen to competent sources.
So the Bucks are dead. Okada's dead. The Ospreay Fletcher Callis.
I don't know, man. If you're getting $120 million a year to do television, you're doing television.
Determined to do very, very soon. Is that next week?
I think they said 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Coming out of the tag.
Got to give it a big long build.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite.
What were the ratings on this fiasco? Were they dead?
Oh, baby. Let's get ready to LARP TV executive time. Let's go. LARP, 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 LARP. Let's talk about things that don't matter. And I mean that, right? We're talking about television ratings, and we're going to say X, Y, and Z. Their ratings were this, their ratings were that. Here's the fun thing for me. The people who pay AEW to make television think they're doing a decent enough job. How do I know that? Because they're doubling the amount of money that they're paying them. Almost. Is it double? It's close to double, right? For just their television. Dude, I don't know if you know this, but if you are bad at your job, your boss does not give you a raise. Your boss will not double your pay if you're doing a bad job. So let's LARP as television executives.
Ed?
Let me pull up the ratings here. AEW Dynamite, September 18th, 2024, 8 to 10:06 p.m. on TBS. On average, watched by 687,000 viewers.
Oh, all right. So they're back under 7.
And just for comparison's sake, because we've talked about it before, I just want to see if I could pull this up rather quickly. The day before NXT on USA, September 17th, 8 to 10:07 p.m. On average, 677,000 viewers.
So 10,000 people difference now between the developmental program and their A show.
And they're building NXT up.
Man, they might be different. I think I actually heard them talk about this. I think I watched this on a different live stream, not the whole part before this, but like that part. Buddy, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't understand the difference between AEW and WWE at this point, I'm worried about your comprehension skills, the understanding of the concept of nuance, the stuff that makes us human beings. Jim, if you don't understand this by now, buddy, I'm worried about you. Either that, or you could just be being disingenuous to drum up traffic, to drum up getting heat, getting likes, getting shares, getting money. Hey, that could be the case, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to him chat about this anymore because
hello again, everybody.
There's just no need. Let's see. Yeah, Jim's got, these are such weird drawings, dude. Such weird drawings, man. Oh, man. Jim Cornette's Worst of AEW Omnibus Volume 1, a 6-hour video of Jim Cornette complaining about AEW. I would have figured they had more than 6 hours on it. Oh, Lord. All right. Let's see. Does Cornette have any omnibuses of WWE? Omnibus. Yeah, he does. Hell yeah, he does. Good. I'm actually surprised to see that. Good, Jim. Jim, the voice of mediation, right down the middle. Jim killing all of the tribalism with that one, baby. Good job, buddy. Funniest moments, they use omnibus a lot. Omnibus. I haven't heard that used since the early internet. All right. I'm going to pee, and I'm going to go do something else on this live stream. Give me a second.